Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fitrahli, NIM 2011230070. Okay, this time I'm going to talk about the reason why I choose the village than the city. Actually, at this time in Indonesia, it has started to end. Many of my relatives want to move to the village. When their relative returned, he said because village life is much calmer. In the past, the reason people were reluctant to move to the village was because the village was a very remote area. There were no facilities there, and they end up preferring to live in the city rather than in the village. But everything changed during the reform. There was a positive side and a negative side at the beginning of the reform. The plus side is that it's starting to go out less often and it's starting to come on TV. The negative side began to emerge a lot of drunkards, gamblers, and robbers. The most memorable one once was surprisingly in 2015 when I went to the village to visit my brother's wedding. In line with simplicity, facilities are also getting more sophisticated. Now, who in the village doesn't have a smartphone? So, now going to the village is not the same as in the city. The only difference is that they don't have malls. Well, that's why with adequate facilities, nowadays people are starting to want to live in the village. There is only one obstacle: the village themselves who want to leave the village doing it in the village. The air is still cool, lots of plants. It's close to the farm where I learned to a lot about the food system, and it's also what make me leave no food behind. There are always gardening activities. Refraining from planting is very philosophical and ecological for me. That what is planned is what is repaired, but still yes, I am a human who make a lot of mistakes. There is still butter in, and it really feels like mutual cooperation. The menu is simple but meaningful, not too carried away by the current flow of information, but can still be monitored using the power of cell phone. I personally choose to live in the village, although the facilities are not as many and sophisticated as in the city, but in the village it is comfortable in my opinion. Avoid living is in a crowded residential neighborhood with lots of people. In addition, and land occupation in the city is also limited, so that they are stuck in having a small dwelling. I prefer a spacious reside that includes places such as house, art workshop, garden. Okay, in my opinion, residential space today lack recreational facilities that involve nobody moving and the five since my goal in living in the village is basically to enjoy the tranquility of life. Living in a village is indeed in risk because the necessities of life are not as complete are in the city. However, the necessities of life themselves can be stocked from shopping centers in the city or market. I think that I can save expense because living in the city makes eating more often. I think three are plus and minus to living in the village. The plus value living in the village is opportunity to build a large residential space because there is a lot of vacant land. Meanwhile, living in the city narrows the residential space. The means of living in the village is the distance of access to health and the like. However, this can actually be circumvented by using a vehicle to access the nearest health service, which is usually located in the sub-district or suburbs. Living in the village can indeed provide peace for me who is already very tired of living in the city. Each has its advantage and disadvantage. In the countryside, it is usually quite the air is cool. People socialize more often. We live a harder life because I once lived in a village that required walking about 1 hectare of rice field before I could get to the main road. Food is also more natural and less likely to contain harmful chemicals. However, technology is very limited, lucky to have internet and electricity as well as pump water. Sometimes that's just not the case. The chase floor are often still rock concrete or dirt. Tar floor are among the rich people in the village. Too long in the village, leave to be you behind visually and technologically. Overall, village life is slower than in the city. If you need a break from the pressure and business, the village is very helpful. At night, the village is also beautiful. You can see the stars clearly, and the fireflies fly around. Prices are also much cheaper in the village. On the other hand, life is very fast and modern. 24 hours, never sleep. Electricity, water, internet, almost mandatory commodities. The money unit is created, but the expenses are also balanced. People everywhere, as far as the eye can see. Okay, next, the demands of city life are very high. The most difficult thing is housing. Places in the city are very expensive. Lucky if you have your own house. Many people rent apartment to build house illegally. Therefore, the crime rate is also high. Pollution, as well as street and pressure, as if life is always being chased. Your quality of life will decrease. Then your hard work will be used to again improve the quality of your life in the hospital. Overall, the city is a cruel and unhealthy place, but three are great rewards and reward than staying in the village. You will also not be closest because of environment demands. Okay, the more specific, I choose the stay in the village because I have much memories because I have the place where I can stay. I can going to my grandfather, my family up there. Okay, maybe just that. Maybe just that my about the reason why I choose the village distant city. I thanks the attention. I end. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.